police brutality, repression, and criminalization of a generation. I can never get these things right.
Oh, that's cool.
The second thing, and talk about it and make some plans, because people really feel compelled to do something on that day. The second thing we want to talk about is the Occupy Detroit. That, in New York they've got the Occupy Wall Street. Well, they had an organizing meeting here a few days ago around Occupy Detroit. And over 200 people came to the organizing meeting.
Excuse me, 1,000.
What?
1,000
That's what
people?
they're saying.
Yes,
What?
1,000 people came
1,000. That's the
That's
to
what they're
the
saying.
to the
What
meeting.
saying.
To the organizing meeting.
Meeting, yes.
Yeah, the
just to
first
get it
initial
organized.
Yeah.
organizing
And
meeting.
they've decided
It
to
was
start
wild.
this Friday.
What?
They're going to have a 4:00 demonstration, and then they're going to occupy Grand Central Park, or Grand Circus Park. Wrong park.
Oh, Grand Circus.
Grand
All right.
Circus
I thought
Park,
they was
yeah.
gonna somehow go to New York, but all right.
No, no.
Grand
Do a
Circus.
transport.
Grand
All
Circus.
right.
Well,
I
actually,
was
and
like,
It's
whoa.
just spreading around
it's
the country.
spreading around the country. I mean, he had to go to Lansing today for something for work, and he fell across. He just stumbled across
Occupy
the
Lansing.
Occupy Lansing, and I know there's
Wow.
Occupy Cleveland, Occupy
Chicago.
Chicago.
What are they doing when they're occupying these places?
He went to the one in Wall Street. So
What?
We can talk
Hold
about
on.
when we get to it.
Yeah.
He came back with a paper that they put out. It says "Occupy the World."
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Now what do we do? How do we do that? What are they doing?
They're
in all
setting
this
up
occupy-
tent cities.
tent city?
Yeah, and and
it's a park directly across the street from the stock exchange.
Right.
All right.
And so they set up tents and just, we
right,
live
they
here
fill
now.
up this park. And
Wow. Oh, they
just
occupy.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
occupy
yeah,
it.
occupy it.
In
Right.
the truest form of it.
Right.
Right.
Well, they're
And
not exactly occupying the stock exchange.
Yeah.
There's a few
No,
police
but they were
between them
occupying
and
the land.
Stock exchange.
yeah, they're occupying the land and bringing attention
That's right.
to sort
The
of
issue.
a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. The
Um,
issues.
That people are angry about.
Multiple issues.
Right. Kind of
Yeah.
the whole state where
Outrage.
outrage. Yeah.
All right.
And
And organized.
right. And
And-
we this thing is happening here, and Athena and I were talking about being part of it. Certainly, I don't think we'll be able to spend months outside. But
Right. So where they going to occupy Friday?
Grand
Grand
Circus Park.
What? What?
We'll be
Now,
sleeping
Grand
outside.
Circus Park. So not Campus
Downtown.
Meredith.
Adam, at the
Well, you
circus
gotta
down in
start
downtown.
somewhere.
Campus Meredith or
No, it's Grand Circus Park.
which park was that?
It's
It's-
down there at Grand
that's-
Circus Park is what it is.
On Woodward.
Right
Yeah,
Yeah,
down the
Woodward
street
and
from
Grand
Fox
Circus,
Theater.
right there where the Adam
Fox
Theater and all
Theater,
that stuff used to be at.
Clarence
That's
Park.
Grand
Yeah.
Circus
That
Park.
park
That's
right
Grand
there.
Circus
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah, it's like you
Oh, so
drive
it's
It's a
down
before they
circle.
get to
Woodward
Campus
and
Meredith. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's at the
Yeah.
other end of Woodward.
yeah.
All right.
And there was a lot of discussion at the meeting. It was like 1,000 people over what area they should occupy. And some people wanted Campus Marshes, some people wanted Grand Circus, and some people wanted to do it at this Roosevelt Park, which is by the old train station.
All right.
But that's like,
Actually, my understanding is that Grand Circus Park was a compromise.
it was a
between the sort
compromise.
of two
That was the,
ideas.
Wow.
it was the compromise place,
Wow.
because the one place would be really safe and out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
and the other place would be right in their face and really risky, and so
Right.
people compromised and
To
came
do
up
the
with
Grand
Grand
Circus
Circus
Park.
Park. Yeah, which, if Detroit is still in the playoffs, this could also be very dicey.
Yeah, 'cause it's right down in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So now Detroit is in the playoffs.
Yeah, they playing the Tigers the Tigers
Baseball.
are playing,
All right,
yeah.
I have to get which one is
Against
in the
Texas.
I know.
playoffs so I can keep up with this.
Yeah, the only reason
they
I
playing
know.
games.
Are they still in? Did you know?
Yeah, they won
Yes,
last night.
they
They
won.
So they
last
still
Yeah.
roaring.
They're still
All
rolling.
right, cool.
Yeah, the game was going on in spite of the rain.
They're playing here now?
Yeah,
They're back there?
it's a home game.
Oh, today.
Yeah,
Yes.
I only know this because my husband's watching.
Of course.
I don't-
You know,
I-
no
they
way
was
we can
doing
keep
it at
up with
work
and that's-
yesterday.
Yeah, really.
You know.
He's
Check these things.
All right.
my husband's son into that.
So,
Okay, so what we start at, before we get into these different things, and third thing we're going to talk about is how these two different really big struggles relate to each other.
And relate to the question of building a movement for revolution.
Right. Because that's what this is about, is building movement for revolution.
Wow.
Okay, and so I started out by reading this quote, some principles for the movement, for building a movement for revolution.
I'm sorry, can you just back up a little bit more? Bob Avakian is the chairman of the Revolutionary Communist Party. He came up out of the 1960s and formed this party about the 60s.
What's
And
the
he's-
name of the party?
Revolutionary Communist Party.
All right.
Wow.
And it came out of the 60s, and he's been leader of this party over all this time.
From 60,
To
let's say
now.
60 to
And who
now,
was
so
that?
50 years?
His name's Bob Avakian.
Bob
Yeah.
Avakian, so about 50 years.
He's still here with us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in fact, he's the guy whose quote I'm
Gonna
gonna
read.
read.
Oh,
Set
all right.
the
This is
tone
the tone.
and
This
we'll
is
get.
That's his
book
book.
Bob
Basics,
Avakian.
which
Basics.
is
So,
a series of quotes and short essays that concentrates 30 years worth of his work
study
as a
and what he was
revolutionary
done.
leader.
Okay,
you
Just
want
kinda
to go
keep
to, he got a
quoting
statement.
it.
yeah, I wanna read this
Will he
statement.
explain what communism is? Is that
And not in this statement, but there are many, many things that we can show you.
We just
after
asked him that question, like
Yeah.
either yesterday or the
Yeah.
day before.
And page-
I asked him, like,
Page
what
two
is
of the
communism?
newspaper.
Yeah.
And-
He said,
okay.
we're going to have to look it up because
Well,
I
I
don't
just
know if
did
he
the
gave me an
humble thing.
answer.
Well, I did the humble thing and say, all right, let's, instead of me saying what I think it is, or what I believe it is, or what I've concluded, I knew it would be better to have some active people who are in it to really define it.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
For me,
you
just
turn
like
to
saying, you
page
know,
two of the
to
paper,
show
there's a
respect,
short
you know what I
note
mean,
there.
yeah,
to it.
yeah.
That he defined it in?
Because
Wonder.
the whole isms is this. I had to get out of all of them. First. I'm like,
Commune
now hold
and
on.
then
You
ism.
know, it's communism,
Yeah.
and they got imperialism, and then they got capitalism, and
Socialism.
right, socialism, and so
It'll take a whole minute to do it. Turn to
1
page
minute.
two.
Turn
to
over
page
here.
two.
Page two. Good. Page two. All right, you get right in the communism page. That'll help us be able to follow you all. And,
Oh, okay. Bob Avakian. Well,
page two. Leadership for a new stage of communist revolution.
you right here?
It's not in
All
there.
right, I'm in the wrong paper. Right. They
No,
told me
no,
they got
it's
a.
most every issue. It's on, here. It's on page two. Most everything. You know, would be a
Yeah, page two now. I'm on page two.
Yeah.
Boom,
What is
then-
communism?
Thanks. What is communism? What is communist revolution? It is this system that has got us in the situation we're in today and keep us there and keeps us there. And it is through revolution to get rid of this system that we ourselves can bring a much better system into being. The ultimate goal of this revolution is communism, a world where people work and struggle together for the common good, where everyone contributes whatever they can to society and gets back what they need to live a life worthy of human beings, where there are no more divisions among people in which some rule over and oppress others, robbing them not only for the means to a decent life, but also of knowledge and a means for really understanding and acting to change the world. This revolution is both necessary and possible.
Okay,
Perfect.
Great, thank you.
All right, cool.
okay, let's look at this quote again.
All right.
Because it's a really deep quote and there's a lot to it.
All right.
We're just
Back
gonna
over
get
here.
started. And it's a revolutionary strategy, some principles for building a movement for revolution by Bob Avakian. At every point, we must be searching out the key concentrations of social contradictions and the methods and forms which can strengthen the political consciousness of the masses, as well as their fighting capacity and organization in carrying out political resistance against the crimes of this system, which can increasingly bring the necessity and the possibility of a radically different world to life for growing numbers of people, and which can strengthen the understanding and determination of the advanced, revolutionary-minded masses in particular to take up our strategic objectives, not merely as far-off and essentially abstract goals or ideals, but as things that can be actively striven for and built towards. The objective and orientation must be to carry out work which, together with the development of the objective situation, can transform the political terrain so that the legitimacy of the established order and the right and the ability of the ruling class to rule is called into question, in an acute and active sense throughout society, so that resistance to this system becomes increasingly broad, deep, and determined, so that the pole and the organized vanguard force of revolutionary communism is greatly strengthened, and so that at the decisive time this advanced force is able to lead the struggle of millions and tens of millions to make revolution. Fight the power, transform the people for revolution. And, you know, we had just started digging into this and talking about what were some key contradictions that are, you know, that are out in society, key things in a big way. And what, you know, what people were talking about is this thing around police, you know, we started out kind of talking about this thing about police brutality, and then mass incarceration of people, and, you know, sort of the whole, this being one key thing in the oppression of black people, you know, and that's, you know, that's kind of where we started out, and we were, you know, just starting to get into some things. You know, there's this thing of things that, you know, the quote says, methods and forms that can strengthen the political consciousness of the masses as well as their fighting capacity and organization in carrying out political resistance against the crimes of the system. You know, and you know, I think that this whole thing of, you know, it's police brutality, but I think one of the things we're getting at was that it's much more than just the police murder people. It's the mass incarceration and the torture of people in prisons that you were talking about. It's the, you know, the thing with the courts being very much part of that, and recently with this decision with the execution of Troy Davis, and I don't know, you know, this, yeah, you know, this black guy who was like, everybody who testified against him except two people, one of whom was dead and the other was probably the person who committed the murder, came forward and said they were coerced into making statements identifying him as the person who killed this off-duty cop. And
By
they,
the police.
Yeah, by the police. They were coerced by the police. And they still executed him.
Yeah, it's called 21st century lynching. I
Yeah,
thought lynching was
absolutely.
over. I did,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I saw Troy Davis, and I said, this is still lynching going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's a key concentration of social contradictions. This is key concentration.
An example of a key
of
concentration.
social contradiction
social
in society.
contradiction.
The oppression of black people, brown people, people
Right.
of color in this country, that we need to come at, to mount massive resistance to it, and within that, build a revolutionary movement. This is one of the key things that could actually enable us to make revolution, because it's one of the key things that's totally fucked up about this system.
It's the contradictions.
Yeah, between.
I think the contradictions, and I'm hearing you, but I think the most revolutionary thing we could do is be healthy, put healthy things in our body, not really depend on anybody to police us but ourselves, to have an organized effort to do that for ourselves, to have our own health care system, if you will, to have our own school so that we educate ourselves, and to have our own businesses where we're all contributing equally to our own upliftment. And so we only put money back into that upliftment, period.
And to do that, we'll have to get taking it out, like taking it out of where it's going into the whole system
Yes.
around, and
Right.
and the way that people are, like, so much. Yeah. Sorry.
Because the system is something that we recognize as broke, as being contradictory. Yes, they don't do anything they say they're going to do, but then we still continue to support that system.
Right.
So that's why I
exactly.
say that it's the things that we do to ourselves. We'll say that it's somebody else, but it's really ourselves doing it to ourselves, because we don't want to change. our behavior. We don't want to be healthy. We don't want to take care of our business, and we don't want to educate ourselves.
Maybe,
And when I say we, I meant the masses, and when that's what we're talking about, the masses.
but maybe one of the ways to get into that question is by looking at some of the other key contradictions and see how your solution matches up with some of the other key contradictions, social contradictions that you know are
Evident.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I'll put one out there. U.S. imperialism moves to dominate the Middle East. There are wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, bombing Pakistan, moving against Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
They're restructuring the world
Mm-hmm.
for in a drive for empire. They are they want to. They need to dominate that area as empire, as part, a key part of empire building.
But
Mhm.
what they say about it is like, that is such an example, that's one of the really glaring examples of the contradiction, because everything that's said about it is said as it being a completely different kind of thing, and that's how they get people to buy into it. And
Mm-hmm.
because everything would, I mean, it's such, well, it is a contradiction, because what it said the reason is, and the motivation for doing it is
Opposite from what it really is.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, with all, it's like the key the social contradictions. Well, the entirety that the American culture at this time is based on is social contradictions. Everything, the whole system seems to be maintaining itself through contradictions. and
Huey,
that's how it
Huey
exists.
P. Newton, he was saying how the contradictions was necessary to bring about the revolution. See, once you realize that to be healthy is the most revolutionary thing that you can do, the system folds automatic.
I don't know.
We're coming from,
Why don't
we're
you-
coming from
I don't
an
think,
active.
why don't you expand on that?
Yeah, you come from
How is that gonna happen?
Active
Here it is,
participation.
because
Okay,
as you're dealing with the forces of
Gary,
the forces.
I'm leading this, and that wasn't where I was going.
All right.
Oh,
No,
so we'll
and
yield.
no,
No, we'll yield.
because we have,
She's leading. We'll
yeah,
yield. We'll
we
yield.
have, we talked about the war,
Mhm.
we talked about national oppression,
Right.
and once we talk about this,
Mm-hmm.
then we can talk about how being healthy works as a strategy to get
Yes.
rid of these key contradictions.
Yes.
Okay, and we've got two key contradictions out there. Now, what's driving this whole thing around Occupy Wall Street?
I think
You know?
that's key. I think
Yeah.
that's key because what you said earlier about the different places, I think maybe she said that all those different places, they do the same thing. They want to occupy the land. That is the goal. Anybody that wants to be sufficient and self-sufficient, like we're saying that we're going to do, they're going to say no, 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 no. And so that's what they continually do. And so it's all
It's just
the same thing.
Yeah. See, the beautiful thing is that because the way that until now, because they calls me to yield and go start all over now. See, which is link us here because you back into the basics. So the basic root components is we desire these principles that you stated we were entitled to. The government is through the people. It's ran through self-government. You have to be self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Your health is the center of that. Improper health, just like what they call a diet, that's why you die. Because it's a diet. See, you eating death, you die. Pow. And we gonna go to war about that. Because I'm learning it get that deep, but like I said, the flip side, which is where I'm going, because I'm like, man, we've been in revolution since the beginning of America over here. That's what they did. They said, Britain, y'all wrong, let's fight. And then it's
American
13
Revolution.
states, and then now we got 50, and then now we back in the same position.
And
It's like we saying, hey, England, you did me wrong. Because I'm talking about the United States of America. Because I'm saying, hey, I'm a victim of domestic violence by a living experience. So if I want to stop the revolution, then I need to stop it right here with myself. And then I've got to have like minds in agreement. Because the point of disagreement is what they're going to use against us.
Here, let's back up a little bit, because like one of the things about the Wall Street thing
Mm-hmm.
is that independent of what any of us want or
Mhm.
any of us are doing,
Mhm.
Right.
right? What has developed in terms of the economics of this country
Mhm.
is huge monopolies,
Right.
huge financiers,
Mhm.
Right.
right, have concentrated the wealth and ownership
Mhm.
Right.
of the means of producing
Land
life,
Right.
and money.
right? You know, land, labor, resources,
That's right. The
you
key
know,
components.
equipment, you
The
know, these are
essentials, the
concentrated
basics.
in the hands of a very few people.
The
Yes.
basics.
And when they set out to make a profit above everything else,
Mhm.
above human need, above
Right.
everything else, they've actually created an economic crisis
Right.
that threatens their whole setup.
Right.
And one of the repercussions has been they explicitly set out to sucker black folks and brown folks into getting mortgages for houses they knew they'd never be able to pay for.
It's
Right?
impossible to pay for
And
something you
the
already
result of this, regardless of what any of us want
Mhm.
or how any of us have been organizing for whatever,
Right.
have. Right.
is that tons of people all over the place are losing their homes. Right? And that's happening on a large scale
Mhm.
because on a large scale, the people that run things is the way they run things is causing that.
Exactly.
Got it.
They,
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I think, you know, he was onto something, and I think that, you know, and that's why I wanted to get the contradictions, some key contradictions out there.
Mhm.
And I think this contradiction of the incredible wealth being concentrated in the hands of the few,
Mhm.
and out of that, all these other things spiraling out of control, like, you know, the fact that unemployment officially is at almost 10%. That's not all the people who gave up looking for jobs.
Aside from that.
Aside
Not
from
even
that.
counting.
Or, yeah, you know, once your unemployment insurance runs out, you are no longer unemployed.
This is why you
You
have
no
to have
longer
your
count.
own business.
Okay, but you
It's
have,
basic.
you have a major, you know, you have a major economic recession going on. And yes, you can have your own business, but if I don't have any money to buy anything from you,
Well,
then
if
your
I'm
business
only
goes
doing
under.
business with those that are doing business with me, then your business it
But-
thrives.
But
Right, it's
what
low
I'm saying,
if I don't have
and it doesn't change the fact that the monopoly capitalists, the imperialists, are going off to war and killing millions and millions of people in the Middle East.
Mhm.
Or another contradiction, in
That's
Africa.
the beauty of it. Beauty
Or
means
another
deception.
contradiction is what they're doing to the environment. I mean,
Yes.
this whole thing of like
Yes.
the what's it, the oil, the shell
BP.
tar pit, yeah. Well,
all
there's a
that stuff.
BP thing, but they want to build this huge pipeline from Canada down to Texas, where they'll have like this, what's it called again? Tar sands, yes, I was trying to remember, tar sands. Oil, where they have to like actually fracture, you know, on molecular level to get the oil out of these sands, and creates huge amounts of pollution. And it's a lot of environmental scientists
Mhm.
think that the amount of pollution that can